Now that we have all the information about the different kinds of cost, what can we do with it? We can use it to solve a little bit of a puzzle. So here we're seeing a little bit of a table with the differing types of cost that we just talked about, and we have a lot of different blanks for a given amount of quantity of a particular good. And it's going to be our job to go ahead and solve this puzzle. It looks like a very ugly Sudoku puzzle, and we have the ideas and the information with these costs right here in order to help us solve out all these blanks. We know what fixed cost, variable cost, total cost, marginal cost, all the average measures of the cost as well. We can use all the information, the equations and formulas to help us solve for a particular blank or to solve out this entire table that we have right here. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. So I've drawn up a little bit of table. I've basically recreated the table right here, and we want to solve all the blanks, so everything that has a little bit of a white dash right here. We have quantities from 0 all the way to 5. We have the different types of costs right here. I've also added in the average fixed cost, which the previous slide did not. First thing that you want to go ahead and do when you solve one of these particular tables is to use the relationships, go back to think about the equations, and see how the variables all tie to one another. The first three variables, how do they tie with one another? We know that all three of these are going to be tied together because fixed cost plus variable cost is going to equal our total cost. For the marginal cost, we can do this a few different ways. The most typical way is going to go ahead and be our change in total cost divided by the change in quantity. It can also be the change in variable cost divided by the change in quantity, just based on the sort of algebraic manipulation that we did previously. Average variable cost, that's just simply going to be VC, variable cost, divided by quantity. Average total cost, that's going to be TC, divided by quantity. And average fixed cost is going to be fixed cost divided by quantity. So the average measures are always going to be the easiest ones to go ahead and solve for. Taking a look at the table, what two columns are you going to immediately be able to solve for right off the bat? The first one's going to be your fixed cost. Remember that these are things that are going to stay constant. They do not change at all. And we're already given the piece of information that fixed cost is equal to 50 when the quantity is 2. So that tells us that every single other fixed cost blank right here is also going to equal to 50 as well. Remember, fixed costs, you have to pay these no matter what. If the business is open or closed, it remains the same no matter what. So 50 all the way down. We also know that once we have the fixed cost right here, we immediately can solve for our average fixed cost. All we need to do is just take these fixed costs, 50, and divide it by the quantity that we're at. So 50 divided by 1 will give us 50 right here. 50 divided by 2 will give us 25, and then so on down the line. So here, if we just wanted the information or the equation, 50 divided by 1, 50 divided by 2, and then I think you guys can do the rest with that. So this is going to be 16.67. This will be 12.5, 12.50, and then 10 all the way down right here. And there's going to be a little bit of rounding issues with a few of these sort of things, with a few of these calculations. Typically, we can go ahead and go to 2 decimal places in order for us to solve all this out. So 50 divided by 5 right here. So far, so good. Next, we can go ahead and take a look at the next blank. So row number 1 with a quantity of 0. If fixed cost equals to 50, what do variable costs have to equal if total cost is equal to 50 as well? We know that variable costs are going to have to equal to 0 in this instance. So fixed cost plus variable cost has to equal total cost, so therefore we know variable costs are equal to 0. You're going to notice that for a quantity of 0, we're going to be unable to solve for marginal cost, ABC, ATC, and AFC, essentially because we don't have enough information. We can't solve for any of the average measures because that'll give us an undefined answer, and we can't solve for marginal cost because we don't have a previous row to go from. So some things to keep in mind. Next row we can go ahead and solve is quantity equal to 1. Fixed cost plus variable cost, that'll give us our total cost right here. So 50 plus 30 will give us 80. Very easy for us to solve right there. The marginal cost of 30 is given to us, and we can check ourselves just by doing the zigzag pattern that we have. So 50 plus what number will give us 80. That's going to be a 30 right here. So change in total cost divided by change in quantity. So what does the total cost change by? It's going to be 30. What does the quantity change by? It's to 1. So therefore, yes, our marginal cost is exactly right, even though the information is given to us. One thing I will sort of warn you about is that we typically cannot do the zigzag pattern all too well with the cost because we typically don't work with quantities of 1. In this example, we do, so that's going to be perfectly fine for us. But as we go and do more and more examples, do not go ahead and do the zigzag pattern when we talk about cost because we typically do not go by quantities of 1. So something to keep in the back of your mind. Average variable cost, how do we solve this out? We just take the variable cost, 30, divided by our quantity of 1, so VC divided by Q. That's 30 divided by 1. We get 30 right here. And then ATC, we solve for TC. It's 80. We divide it by quantity, so 80 divided by 1. 80 divided by 1. That'll give us 80 right here. So far, so good. Pretty simple calculations just starting us off. So next we go to row number 3. What is going to be the missing for our variable cost right here? We know 50 plus what number will give us 100. That's going to be 50 right here because we know fixed cost plus variable cost equals total cost. So that's going to be good for us to go. Next is going to be the marginal cost. So how exactly do we solve that out? We take the change in total cost. So 100 minus 80 right here. So 100 minus 80. And then what's going to be the change in our quantity? It goes from 2 to 1. So 2 minus 1. And that'll give us 20 for marginal cost in this instance. So once again, you can use this formula. You can also do the change in variable cost if we wanted to. So 50 minus 30 divided by 2 minus 1, we get the same exact answer. Remember, a lot of different formulas that we can use. Average variable cost, we take variable cost, 50 divided by our quantity. 50 divided by 2, we'll give it a 25 right there. Average total cost, 50, that's given to us, and we're good to go for row number 3. Row number 4, going to be a little bit more difficult because we only have one piece of information. And what can we use? We have AVC, we have FC, and we also have AFC. But given this set of information right here, what's the only other thing that we can go ahead and solve for? The only other thing that we can go ahead and solve for is going to be our variable cost. Why is it going to be our variable cost? Because remember that we can manipulate this equation for us just a little bit. We notice that AVC is equal to VC divided by quantity. We have an AVC value, which equals to 25, so 25. We don't have a VC value, so that's going to be our unknown. And we have a quantity which equals to 3 in this instance. So we use the algebraic manipulation in order to isolate VC by itself. So 25 times 3 to isolate VC by itself. So therefore, VC equals to 75. And that's exactly how we get that value of 75 right there. And that is the only other piece of information. That is the only way that we can go ahead and solve the rest of the missing pieces that we have right here. 50 plus 75, that'll give us 125. So once again, simple addition. Marginal cost, that's going to be 25 because change in total cost divided by change in quantity. That's 25 right there. And then ATC, 125, your total cost divided by quantity by 3 right here. So 125 divided by 3 will give us 42 in this instance. And then we can go ahead and solve out the rest of the pieces of information that we have right here, but I'll leave that as an exercise for you guys to do. We just go ahead and use these formulas, these equations right here to solve everything out. So I'll just go ahead and give you the numbers just to go ahead and check yourselves. This is going to be a 105. This will be a 30 right here. This will be a 26. And this one will be a 39. And then finally, for the last row, for quantity equal to 5, go ahead, give you the blanks. It'll be 190 and 28 for this one. So for row 4, so for quantity of 4 and 5, rows 5 and 6 that we have right here, be sure to go ahead and fill in these missing blanks. Make sure that you understand what formulas to use in order to fill out the particular information, the piece of information that we want to go ahead and have. So this is a very typical exam question. Basically, a table is provided to you, gives you a bit of information, but it's up to you to go ahead and solve for the missing blanks using all the relationships that we have with all of this. And basically, with all these pieces of information filled that we have right here, one thing that we are going to be interested is going to see exactly what the shapes of each of these cost curves look like, particularly with MC, AVC, ATC, and AFC. So as quantity increases, what happens to MC? What happens to AVC, ATC, and AFC? What type of slopes do you think they're going to be taking? And that's going to be exactly our next step to see exactly what the shapes of these curves look like, because that will give us a very nice graphical illustration of the cost curves, and that will help segue us into later chapters as well. So once again, get a lot of practice with using these formulas and the equations, and you'll be good to go. I'll see you guys later.